Hello, and welcome to today's live Democast. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Chris Shields. I head up product marketing at Gurucul, and I will be moderating today's live session. I am joined by Dave Croto, one of our senior solution architects with over 20 years of experience in the cybersecurity industry, working with the likes of Splunk, Symantec, and Exabeam. But before we jump in, a few housekeeping notes. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the session. We will have time at the end to answer them live. You will get a link to this recording, usually within 24 hours of this live session, so that you can watch it at your leisure. And then sometimes BrightTalk defaults to 480p. So if your resolution doesn't look so hot, you can click the settings button, like at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and adjust your resolution as necessary. SIEMs have gotten a bad rap with declining detections, skyrocketing costs, inadequate visibility, and control over your data. It's certainly understandable. But here, we flip those myths on their head. In today's Democast, we will debunk the myth that SIEMs aren't data friendly. We'll cover how the Gurucul REVEAL security analytics platform can help you optimize your data for analytics and get more data in for less money. And who doesn't like saving money? So with that, I'll turn it over to my esteemed colleague, David.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. And hi, everyone. So in today's demo, we will show the classic ship then shape, shape then ship strategy. Let me get my demonstration up here. Let's look at the windows and get my share. And how data optimizers removes the noise and non-actionable data before pushing it downstream to systems like your SIEM or your analytics platform. We'll see data pipeline level observability in action, and then use federated search to pull it all together at the end to make it make sense in the environment here. So to move forward here, what you see in this this dashboard here showcases the data efficiencies, specifically focusing on volume reduction and intelligent routing. So you're monitoring. So here we're monitoring what the data looks like versus what is allowed downstream. So if you look at the total optimized level here, we've got about 908 megabytes here. After we've optimized that down to about 262 with an efficiency rating of about 71% reduction in the complete data volume. And as we move over, we kind of take the same data from a EPS perspective here and look at the average incoming EPS and the outgoing EPS here as well, looking at efficiencies over a certain period of time. And also looking at the data trends. So ingested over a certain period of time, about 2.7 million events, and we've optimized 1.5. We've optimized that down to 1.5 million events here. So close to a 44% reduction in the data that we've been able to push and ingest into the environment here. So what I'm going to do now is flip over to how we actually go through and do that within the data optimizer product. So if I go over to pipelines here, and we bring up a few of the optimized pipelines, I'm going to walk you through some of these, and specifically the Windows pipeline here. And again, under these pipelines, you defined the optimized number or the optimized events that are coming in. But before we actually do that, you can see under these pipelines, we've defined the ingestion counts in stats for each of these pipelines that are coming in here. And these stats can be threshold and turned into notification alerts. So if we have a quiet source or a source that unexpectedly floods us, we can alert somebody about the specific flood or quiet events that are coming in over these pipelines that we do have here. So what I'm going to do is focus specifically on the Windows pipeline here, and to understand specifically what it is that we're doing here in the summary here. So there's a few steps that we use to define what this pipeline here is. So we define what the source is, the raw source coming in, and then the resource associated with that. So in this case, it's going to be Windows security, but really the heavy lifting comes in the parser here. And the parser here, if you can kind of notice here, we have a number of different actions that we can take. We flatten it in JSON. We format the data format here so that we understand specifically what the timestamp is. And then from a filter standpoint, we use a grok filter. If you can see here, this grok filter is really the heart and soul of what we'd use to parse, transform, and conditionally enrich the Windows security logs, specifically those that related to auditing of events that you're going to see in the, from your typical syslog stream here. So without going into deep details here, what this does is it really breaks up all of the different event types into either a hot path, and that hot path is directly routed into destinations like we talked about earlier, your next-gen SIEM, or your analytics tool, or your alerting platform, whatever it is that you do have. And then the cold path disregards most of that and and discards it to suppress storage or reevaluated that, or sends it to a reevaluation pipeline, if you will. So again, that's that cold or the cold path that we decide we want to actually send it to in its full fidelity if we decide we want to do that here. So we're going to go in and create a pipeline, or you can see here that we've reduced the pipeline while keeping it with high fidelity here. So as we go through this kind of grok filter here, you can see a number of things that are happening here. You can see that we are taking the event types like, such as logons and logoffs, and we're associating that with a specific pipeline with not only the log off and log ons, but of course the account changes and the objective or objects that have access to privileged users, like for instance the 4664s and the 5136s, and we're marking all of those, and we're associating them with a specific filter here. As you kind of scroll down, you can kind of see that filter where we're adding certain event types in their parse format here to either a content filter no or a yes. Pretty simple here, but keep that in mind that once we're ready for enriching the data, you can see here that you need to actually go through and just use these specific add fields here. And we can do that without any sort of deep content inspection into the Windows event that we're actually looking here. So as we kind of go through that, you can kind of see the next step here is the mapping step. So what we're doing with the mapping step here is actually going through and looking at all of the different key value pairs that we do have and the transformation that we're actually doing from them. So if I scroll down here, you can see that I'm taking all of the event codes, or all of the attributes, if you will, and pushing it into a schema that I want to use. And this is where we can take advantage of the transformation of this data by going into any one of these add functions here. And if I scroll down, you can kind of see a few of these here. So we're adding functions to these key value pairs that are coming in. And this really speaks to being able to enrich the data. So you can see here from a technology group, what we're able to do is just function and tag out some of that data here into the new. And then from the regular expression here, we're taking the new process and creating process names using the regex to extract the information that we need. In this case, you can kind of see here the regex is actually just taking the Windows file or the complete directory or to the specific application that we're looking at, like command exe, and just building it into our own key value pair here as we're kind of building that. And if we want to do a deep dive into each one of these, you can see that the regex is designed to extract and normalize the base process name and those sorts of things within the Windows events here as well. So again, just targeting some of the functionality to transform the data once we're actually looking at that data itself here, and then taking the actions that we want to use for that identifier in that field that we were talking about earlier here as well. We can take advantage of that as we go through the process. But if we go back to the routing, the actual routing protocol here, or the routing step, you can see here. In this notification, I skipped over that, but this notification is exactly like we were talking about here, where you can set an arbitrary threshold to say, as far as Windows event data coming in, I want to make sure that, if it's slow or low or quiet, I want to make sure that I can alert somebody for that. And on the flip side of that, if it is 10 times what I expect, I certainly want to do that as well. So from that shape and ship perspective here, what we're able to do is we're able to take that purified, if you will, or those mappings that we've been able to parse out here and add some routes to that here. So you can kind of see here that we're routing it to the Gurucul cloud in this case here. And if you wanted to go in and see exactly what it is that we're doing, you can see here from this standpoint, now I can go in and select the specific attributes that I want to push to the Gurucul cloud, in this instance, the Gurucul cloud, and I'll show you how we actually set that up here. And you can see, of course, the condition that we want to send all of that quote unquote noise data to is that filter that we did have here, in that condition that we did have here, and that we can update here. So this is where you can go into that Windows event field, a Windows event, and then start kind of going through and selecting the attributes that you want to push to the Gurucul cloud in this instance here as well. So for instance, if I want to look at how we configure that Gurucul cloud, if I go into configure here in the setup, you can see here Gurucul cloud is just an S3 bucket that we're actually able to send data to, send that kind of noisy data, perhaps in its full fidelity, and search it for compliancy purposes later on if we decide we want to do that here as well. We can also go through and use what's called federated search to bring it all back together again. If we decide we want to use that, we can kind of go into federated search, and then kind of go into some of the starting to look at some of that data here. We can choose a destination here. Let's use just the Windows federated search, and we can search that data. If indeed it does live on an S3 bucket, we can use federated search to come back in and select that data that we've shaped and we've filtered down for volume perspective, from a volume perspective, and sent to a cheaper cold storage, if you will, off of the back end, and then we're tying it all together with federated search on the back end. And you can kind of see some of the attributes that we used in that filter. And we actually used the specific event stream or event codes or event IDs, I should say, as the really kind of driver into what it is that we're forking over to that S3 bucket here. So as opposed to the real hot events and the actionable events that we're sending directly to our next gen SIEM or our analytics tool. Now I can answer any questions that you do have.
All right, thanks for the great demo, Dave. That concludes the demo portion, and now there are a ton of questions, so I don't know if that means you did a good job or a bad job. Let's see. Do you monitor pipelines for issues and notify if there's an issue with ingestion? I think you answered that, but just in case.
Yeah, great question. So if I go back into pipelines here, the best way to show that and answer the questions, you can see here we have these ingestion counts. Now, I can set an arbitrary threshold if I go back to my specific pipeline here to say if indeed this pipeline for Windows security data is either too low or too high over a certain period of time by that threshold here, I can set a notification if indeed something is happening with this pipeline.
Okay, nice. Stay on that screen. I think there was several questions. Can I build my own pipelines, or do I have to submit a support ticket to have them built?
No, you can quickly, beg, borrow, and steal a specific pipeline that we have. We have a number of the purpose-built pipelines out of the box. Typically, what people will do is clone one exactly exactly the way that they'd want it to be, or at least it's the setup here. But you can indeed start one on your own here if you decide you want to add a new pipeline from scratch here.
Okay, nice. Do you have built-in filters for Windows data sources, or do we have to build our own filters?
No, we have the purpose-built filters for you that come out of the box, which makes us a little bit different because obviously we do have an analytics tool off the back end, a Reveal platform, and that Reveal platform knows exactly from an analytics standpoint what the AI and machine learning needs out of typical Windows events. But so yeah, we have those purpose-built pipelines for our products as well.
I don't know if you mentioned this, Dave, but the thing that also is, this isn't a question, this is just me pontificating, is that our data pipeline management tool is native to our analytics platform. You can use it standalone to send data wherever you need to, or you can use it in conjunction with our analytics tool to save you a lot of money on your ingestion costs.
That's right. And I can come in here and just go in and add a pipeline from scratch and just start adding the data and the sources and the resources that I want to build here. So to your point, it is native with the tool. It's organic with the tool. I'm not going to make you slog around in a number of config files on a server somewhere or on a data platform where you're actually receiving all of that data. I'm going to give you a graphical user interface to start building these pipelines out and using those grok filters to build in exactly what it is that you want to shape and exactly what it is that you want to ship.
Thanks, Dave. We have a threat research team. Can we use our own threat intelligence to enrich our data?
Absolutely. So if I go back into, to answer that question a little bit deeper, if I go back into a specific, let me actually go through here and show a specific pipeline here where we're actually doing that here. So if I go back into OPT and go into the Palo Alto pipeline here, you can see we have the same parsing mechanism for whatever tool it happens to be. We showed you Windows earlier. But if I go into mapping, here's a great example of, if I scroll down here, a great example of us enriching data with our own Gurucul threat intel here. But, this is how you can kind of use your own data within within the data optimized pipeline here to to meld in your own threat intel feeds that you do have here. Now I'm showing you that in a transform state, so inside of Data Optimizer. However, in our other tools, we natively support a lot of other third-party threat intel feeds that aren't necessarily part of Data Optimizer.
So if they have their own threat intelligence, it wouldn't be coming from like a third-party feed, like as long as it had an API where we could connect to it, right? Or if they like dropped it in like an S3 bucket or something, we could read it and do those lookups with their.
Absolutely. We take it in as a feed, and we would either use, standard watch lists or lookups or even machine learning to meld them together or correlate them together with the threats that we see within the environment. But again, that's moreover kind of enriching the data as opposed to as opposed to filtering that data. But yeah, it's certainly a core competency of the the data optimizer product is being able to kind of enrich as well.
Okay, cool. Do you? Oh wait, I read that one. Do we have? Sorry, I didn't see where you can schedule the pipeline to run. Is it fixed to run at some interval?
Yeah, so the data pipelines do have a a schedule associated with them. We didn't have a schedule for this one, but I could add a schedule, and that would give me the opportunity to do that. But obviously, I'm not going to add a job schedule to this previously built one here. But you have the opportunity to go in and schedule a pipeline. Or the data to go in and actually receive the pipeline and build all of the parsing that is required. But most of the data optimizers, they're not necessarily a schedule per se. You want to optimize the data pipeline at time of ingest, so it's almost at real time. You're optimizing that pipeline here. But there are other tasks like enriching the data that you can schedule.
Great, thank you. Can I push filter data to an S3 bucket? I think that question came in when you were, I think you showed that you could push it to the Gurucul Cloud S3 bucket, but I'm guessing they're just wondering if they could push it to their own S3 bucket.
Sure. I mean, yeah, those are, right now we're showing you the Gurucul Cloud one, but yes, you'd be able to kind of push it into your own S3 bucket if we had the proper rules in place that allows us to do that in permissions.
Okay. And we still have some time. If you have any additional questions, please pop them in on the right-hand side. I think I got two more. Can I send data to multiple places simultaneously?
Yes. So if you look at these optimized pipelines here, I can go into the routing and show you specifically that I can add a specific route here. Here, I'm just sending my data to the the Gurucul Cloud here, which is our S3 bucket, which makes it available for the federated search. But I could add another route here, put the condition in. Like, for instance, if I wanted to send everything else, I would actually go into here and just copy and paste this and copy it and close out here and add a route. I can come in here and say, name the route to my bucket or my target. And I can enter a destination here. Of course, a destination needs to be configured so that we have the ability to actually hit it. But so you can see here where we have a couple of examples of this. And then, for instance, if I wanted to send everything that matched that crop filter that we showed you from a no standpoint, we could add that here. I don't have a destination, so I won't add it into this environment here. But everything that is not going to our Gurucul Cloud and can go to your specific target, no matter what that happens to be here. So, for instance, this gives you a good example of what we can do to route the data here.
This isn't a question, Dave, but you mentioned that federated search can search our S3 bucket, but it can search more than that.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
It can search, data anywhere that you've got it, as long as you create a connection. And I think you went into the settings and showed the different connections.
Yeah.
Just like you would have to go there to set up their own S3 bucket.
Yeah. So you would have to go into configurations that we just showed you here and go into setup and just set up that S3 data source configuration that we would have here. This is where you would go through and set up all of your targets here.
Yep. No additional questions have come in, but the last one is, can you filter on anything other than event ID?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry I didn't show that. I wanted to event ID was one of the things that we use. Obviously, it's synonymous with a Windows event, but no, you can filter on anything. Here we're doing Palo Alto traffic. Here we're doing CrowdStrike FDR traffic. Obviously next-gen firewalls and EDR, they're very chatty. So you can go in and build filters for the FDR data as it's coming in here and looking at how we parse that data here as well. So you can kind of see how we're building out And these grok filters, they're easy, as opposed to having to write regular expressions or on the back end and some sort of config file from a VI standpoint. From a stanza standpoint, it's easy to kind of use this. So typically what people will do is they'll take our filters out of the box. They'll clone these pipelines, take the filters out of the box, and start adding things. But no, we go well beyond just Windows events. I mean, the world's your oyster when it comes to how you want to go through and filter out the whatever happens to be the resource noise that you're looking at.
Awesome. No additional questions have come in. So appreciate the demo. Hope this was helpful for everyone, and be sure to check out our website for future webinars. Thanks for attending.